What if the dream you have been carrying is not asking you to struggle harder, but to become quieter inside? Perhaps there is something you have imagined for a long time, a more peaceful life, a loving relationship, a sense of purpose, a feeling of freedom from the fear that has followed you through so many seasons. You may have pictured a different future and wondered why it still seems so far away. You may have tried to think positively, work through your doubts, and convince yourself that everything will eventually change. Yet beneath those efforts, there may still be a quiet exhaustion. You are tired of waiting, tired of wondering whether life has forgotten you, tired of watching other people move forward while you seem to remain in the same place. And perhaps the most painful question is not whether your dream can become real, perhaps it is whether you are worthy of receiving it. That question often lives beneath anxiety. It appears when you lie awake at night and imagine everything that could go wrong. It appears when you compare your life with someone else's and quietly conclude that they possess something you do not. It appears when the past whispers that disappointment will repeat itself, that love will leave again, or that peace belongs to other people. But what if those thoughts are not the voice of your deepest self? What if they are only the voice of fear trying to protect an identity you have outgrown? There is a part of you that believes your dream is somewhere outside you, waiting to be earned. It tells you that peace will arrive when circumstances become easier, that love will arrive when someone finally understands you, and that your life will begin when uncertainty disappears. This part of you keeps looking toward the horizon and saying, "Not yet." Yet the horizon always moves as you approach it. The spiritual invitation may be to stop placing your life in a future moment and begin listening to what your dream is revealing about you now. Behind the image of the life you desire, there is often a deeper longing. You may believe you want a particular outcome, but perhaps what your soul truly longs for is freedom, connection, creativity, belonging, or inner peace. The outer dream may be a symbol. The deeper dream may be a state of being. A person may dream of finding love while their soul is inviting them to remember that they are already made of love. Someone may dream of leaving a painful situation while something within them is asking them to release the fear that follows them wherever they go. Another person may dream of discovering a purpose while their true self is quietly asking them to become present enough to notice the purpose already expressed through kindness, forgiveness, and simple acts of care. This does not mean that your outer dreams are unimportant. It does not mean you should stop hoping, imagining, or moving toward a life that feels more aligned. It simply means that a dream may not be fulfilled through desperation. It may begin to unfold when you stop asking it to complete you. A seed does not become a tree by hating the soil in which it has been planted. It does not compare itself with the forest or become ashamed because its branches have not yet appeared. It rests in darkness for a while. It receives what is available, and through an intelligence it cannot explain, it begins to open. Perhaps your life is not as empty as it appears. Perhaps something is already opening beneath the surface. You may be in a season that feels uncertain, but uncertainty is not always a sign that you are lost. Sometimes it is the space between an old way of living and a new way of seeing. The mind may call this space uncomfortable because it cannot control what comes next. But the deeper self may recognize it as sacred. You do not need to force clarity from this moment. You can allow yourself to breathe within it. When you become still, even briefly, you may notice that beneath the noise of your thoughts, there is a quiet presence. It does not criticize you for being afraid. It does not demand that you become more impressive or more deserving. It simply remains with you. This presence may be called love, awareness, spirit, or the source. The name matters less than the experience of returning to it. It is the part of you that has never been damaged by rejection, delay, loss, or uncertainty. It is the part of you that does not need to compete for worthiness. Your true self is not waiting at the end of your dream. It is already here, beneath the fear that tells you something is missing. And perhaps this is where the dream truly begins, not in the moment the world finally changes, but in the moment you stop abandoning yourself while you wait. What might become possible if you no longer pursued your dream from fear? What might you hear if you released the need to know exactly how it must happen? And what if the path waiting for you is gentler, wiser, and more beautiful than the path your anxious mind has been trying to control? The anxious mind often believes that the safest way to protect a dream is to control every detail of its arrival. It wants a clear timeline, a guaranteed outcome, and evidence that nothing will go wrong. It wants to know who will help, which door will open, and how long the uncertainty will last. When these answers do not appear, the mind begins to create its own explanations. It says the dream is impossible, that you have waited too long, or that life is giving other people what it has denied you. This is how the ego turns a beautiful inner vision into a source of suffering. The ego is not something you need to hate or destroy. It may simply be understood as the part of the mind that believes you are separate from life. It sees the world through comparison, protection, and control. It asks, how do I make this happen? Before asking, who am I being while I move toward it? It believes that your value rises and falls according to what you possess, how others respond to you, and whether your life follows the plan you once imagined. You may recognize this pattern in ordinary moments. You open your phone and see someone celebrating a relationship, a new beginning, or a life that appears peaceful. Almost immediately, your own path seems smaller. You may feel happy for them, yet something inside you tightens. A quiet voice says, why has this not happened for me? The pain in that moment is not created by their happiness. It comes from the meaning the ego gives to it. Their progress becomes evidence of your delay. Their joy becomes proof that you are behind. Their life becomes a measuring stick used against your own. But life is not a race in which the source offers blessings only to those who arrive first. A flower that opens in spring is not more worthy than one that opens in summer. Each responds to conditions invisible to the other. Each has its own season, its own rhythm, and its own expression of beauty. Your path may not be late, it may simply not be theirs. When comparison appears, you can notice it without judging yourself. You might gently ask, what am I believing about myself in this moment? Perhaps you are believing that there is not enough love, opportunity, or guidance to reach everyone. Perhaps you are believing that another person's fulfillment has reduced what is available to you. Perhaps you are believing that the timing of your life determines your worth. Awareness begins to loosen these beliefs. It does not argue with them aggressively. It shines a quiet light upon them. And when a fearful thought is seen clearly, it no longer has to govern your entire inner world. And the same is true of attachment. You may have a dream that has gradually become connected to one exact person, one exact opportunity, or one exact outcome. You tell yourself, it must happen this way, or I cannot be happy. The dream may still look like hope, but underneath it, there is fear. Attachment says that only one form can deliver the feeling you seek. You may experience this in a relationship. Perhaps you care deeply for someone and imagine a future with them. Yet the connection becomes uncertain. They withdraw, change, or choose another path. Your heart does not only grieve the person, it grieves the entire future you had built around them. You may begin to bargain with life. You replay conversations, search for mistakes, and wonder how you can restore what was. You tell yourself that peace will return only if this person returns. The emotional pain is real and deserves compassion. Letting go is not pretending that the relationship did not matter. It is not erasing love or denying grief. It is releasing the belief that your capacity to love was created by one person and must disappear with them. The love you experienced moved through you. The tenderness was yours. The openness was yours. The ability to see beauty in another human being came from something alive within your own spirit. The relationship may have awakened that love, but it did not own it. This realization does not end grief immediately. It offers grief a larger space in which to breathe. Instead of saying, my love has been taken from me, you may begin to say, love is still present within me, even as I release the form through which I once experienced it. That shift is the beginning of freedom. Control appears in many forms. Sometimes it looks like constant planning. Sometimes it looks like people-pleasing. You may believe that your dream depends on keeping everyone satisfied, avoiding conflict, or becoming the person others expect you to be. You adjust your words, hide your needs, and say yes when something inside you quietly says no. You may do this because you fear rejection. You may believe that if others disapprove of you, a door will close or love will disappear. And so, without noticing, you trade your inner peace for temporary acceptance. But a dream that requires you to abandon your true self cannot bring lasting peace. It may give you approval, but it will leave you disconnected from the person receiving that approval. There comes a moment when you may ask, whose life am I trying to live? This is not a question of rebellion. It is a question of honesty. Are you moving toward what feels aligned with love, or are you trying to prove that you are worthy of belonging? Are your choices coming from inner guidance or from fear of disappointing someone? The ego often confuses approval with love. Approval says, I accept you when you behave as I prefer. Love says, I honor the truth of your being, even when I do not fully understand your path. You can begin offering that kind of love to yourself. This may mean listening before answering. It may mean allowing a pause before agreeing to something. It may mean recognizing that another person's disappointment is not always evidence that you have done something wrong. Sometimes it is simply evidence that you are no longer living according to an expectation that was never truly yours. As you become more aware, you may also see how fear attaches itself to the past. The mind gathers old disappointments and uses them to predict what will happen next. One relationship ended, so it says love is unsafe. One attempt failed, so it says you should stop trusting your calling. One person rejected you, so it says you are not worthy of being seen. The past becomes a lens placed over the present. Imagine walking through a garden while wearing glasses covered with dust. The flowers are still there, the sunlight is still falling across the path, but everything appears dim. You might begin to believe the garden has lost its beauty when the cloudiness is actually resting on the lens through which you see it. Awareness does not demand that you forget the past. It helps you notice when an old wound is interpreting a new moment. You may meet someone kind and still expect abandonment. You may receive an opportunity and immediately prepare for failure. You may sense a new direction in your life and then hear the voices of people who once doubted you. These reactions do not mean you are weak. They may simply mean that some part of you is still trying to prevent an old pain from returning. You can meet that part with compassion rather than shame. You might say inwardly, I understand why you are afraid. You learned to protect me when I did not know another way. But this moment is new, and I am willing to see it clearly. Such awareness changes the relationship you have with fear. Fear may still speak, but you no longer have to treat every fearful thought as a prophecy. The ego often asks for certainty before it will allow peace. It says, tell me how everything will work out, and then I will relax. But certainty is rarely available in the way the mind demands it. Life is always moving. People change. Seasons turn. Doors close, and unexpected paths appear. If peace depends on knowing the future, peace will always remain fragile. There may be another kind of trust available to you. Not the trust that every event will match your preference, but the trust that you can remain connected to your deepest self. Whatever happens, you can trust that love will still be available within you. You can trust that awareness will help you respond. You can trust that the source is not limited to the single route your mind has chosen. A river does not know every curve before it reaches the ocean. It does not stand at the mountain demanding a complete map. It moves by responding to the land before it. It bends without believing that bending is failure. It slows when the path narrows and continues when the way opens. Perhaps your dream can be held in the same way. You can honor it without gripping it. You can move toward it without making your worth dependent upon it. You can listen for guidance without demanding that the entire journey be revealed at once. This does not make you passive. It makes your action less burdened by fear. You still take the next honest step. You still speak, create, forgive, or begin again. But you are no longer trying to force life into submission. You are participating in a relationship with it. And whenever the ego returns with its old questions, what if I fail? What if I am too late? What if I lose what I love? You can notice the deeper question hidden beneath them. Can I trust myself to remain connected to love? Perhaps the answer is not something you need to find all at once. Perhaps it is something you remember each time you pause, breathe, and choose not to abandon your inner peace. Each moment of awareness becomes a small opening. Each act of self-compassion loosens an old knot. Each time you release comparison, control, or the need for approval, you make space for a wiser intelligence to move through your life. And in that space, your dream begins to change. It is no longer a distant object you must chase. It becomes an invitation to return to the self beneath the fear, the self that does not compete, does not beg for worthiness, and does not need to force the river. The deeper journey is now beginning, because once the ego is seen with compassion, you become ready to remember what has been quietly present within you all along. What has been quietly present within you all along is not another personality you must construct. It is not a stronger image, a more impressive identity, or a perfected version of yourself. It is the calm awareness beneath all the roles you have learned to play. It is the part of you that remains whole even when your plans change, your relationships shift, or the future refuses to explain itself. Returning to your true self is less like building a new house and more like opening the windows of a room that has been closed for many years. The light was never absent. It was only unable to enter because fear, resentment, and old beliefs had covered the glass. Forgiveness is one of the ways you begin to clear that glass. You may hear the word forgiveness and think of someone who hurt you. Perhaps there is a person whose choices changed the direction of your life. They may have betrayed your trust, dismissed your feelings, or left when you needed them most. Even after years have passed, part of you may still carry the conversation you never had, the apology you never received, or the justice that never came. It is natural to believe that holding on protects you. The mind says that releasing the pain would excuse what happened. It says your anger proves that the wound mattered. But forgiveness does not declare that another person's behavior was right. It does not ask you to return to an unhealthy situation or pretend that nothing was lost. Forgiveness is the gentle decision to stop allowing a past event to occupy the center of your present life. You are not freeing the other person from responsibility. You are freeing your own spirit from the burden of reliving what cannot be changed. Imagine carrying a heavy stone everywhere you go because someone placed it in your hands many years ago. At first, you may hold it because you do not know what else to do. Over time, it becomes so familiar that you forget you are carrying it. You organize your life around its weight. You avoid certain roads. You become tired more easily. You begin to believe the heaviness is part of who you are. Forgiveness is not saying the stone was harmless. It is realizing that you are allowed to put it down. Perhaps there is also something you need to forgive within yourself. A decision you regret. A relationship in which you stayed too long. A dream you abandoned because you were afraid. You may look back with the awareness you have today and judge the person you were then. But the person you were did not have the understanding you now possess. They were trying to find safety with the tools available to them. They may have made mistakes, but they were not beyond love. You can speak to that earlier version of yourself with tenderness. You might say, you did not know everything. You were learning. You were trying to survive. I no longer need to punish you in order to grow. Self-forgiveness does not remove responsibility. It allows responsibility to become wisdom rather than shame. Shame keeps you identified with the mistake. Wisdom lets the mistake become a teacher. And when the past is no longer controlling the present, your dream can arise from a clearer place. You may begin to notice that some dreams were shaped by old wounds. Perhaps you wanted recognition because you felt invisible as a child. Perhaps you longed for a perfect relationship because you believed another person could finally make you feel secure. Perhaps you wanted to prove something to those who doubted you. There is no need to judge these desires. They may have helped you move through a difficult season, but as you heal, the dream itself may change. What once felt essential may lose its hold. What once looked like success may no longer feel peaceful. This is not failure. It is refinement. A seed does not betray itself when it becomes a tree. It fulfills a deeper pattern that was hidden within it. In the same way, your dream may evolve as you become more honest about what your soul is truly asking for. You may discover that you do not need admiration. You need authenticity. You do not need to be chosen by everyone. You need relationships in which you can be fully present. You do not need life to look perfect. You need to feel at home within yourself. When intention arises from that deeper place, it has a different quality. It is no longer a demand placed upon life. It becomes a quiet direction of the heart. You can hold an intention to live with love without controlling who must love you. You can intend to express your gifts without demanding immediate recognition. You can intend to walk toward peace without insisting that every circumstance become easy. An intention rooted in spirit says, this is the quality I am willing to embody. The ego says, this is the outcome I must receive. The distinction may seem small, but it changes everything. When your intention is peace, you begin to notice where you are creating conflict within yourself. When your intention is love, you become aware of the judgments that close your heart. When your intention is freedom, you see the attachments you have mistaken for security. The dream then becomes a mirror. It shows you not only what you want to experience, but what you are ready to release. This is where surrender enters. Surrender is often misunderstood as weakness. You may imagine it means sitting still while life passes by, abandoning responsibility, or pretending you do not care. But true surrender is deeply alive. It is the willingness to participate fully without demanding ownership of the result. A gardener prepares the soil, plants the seed, and offers water. But the gardener cannot pull the plant upward and force it to grow. There comes a point when effort must become trust. Perhaps you have already planted seeds. You have spoken honestly. You have taken a step toward healing. You have opened your heart again after disappointment. You have begun listening to the quiet calling within you. Yet because the result has not appeared, you may assume nothing is happening. Growth often begins in places the eye cannot see. Roots deepen in darkness. Healing moves through silence. A new understanding forms long before you have language for it. The source may be working through delays, changes, and unexpected encounters that your conscious mind cannot yet connect. Trust does not mean convincing yourself that one particular outcome is guaranteed. It means becoming willing to believe that your life has meaning even when you cannot see the entire design. Sometimes a door remains closed because you are being redirected. Sometimes a relationship ends because you can no longer grow within the role you were playing. Sometimes a long period of uncertainty teaches you to stop searching outside yourself for permission to live. The ego may call these experiences interruptions. The soul may experience them as invitations. This does not mean every painful event was deliberately sent to teach you a lesson. Such an idea can become another way of judging your suffering. It may be gentler to say that whatever has happened, love can still meet you here. Awareness can still transform what you carry. Your life can still open in a meaningful direction. You do not need to explain every storm in order to discover that the sky remains above it. Love is the sky of your being. Fear is weather moving through it. Some days fear may feel like a heavy cloud. It may convince you that no light exists beyond what you can see. But clouds do not erase the sky. They only obscure it for a time. Returning to your true self means remembering that you are the awareness, noticing the fear, not the fear itself. You are the presence witnessing the thought, not the thought. You are the space in which sorrow moves, not only the sorrow. This understanding may come quietly. You may experience it while sitting alone before the day begins, while walking beneath trees, or while listening to someone you love breathe in the next room. For a moment, the mind stops demanding answers. Nothing has been solved, yet something inside you feels complete. These moments are not escapes from life. They are reminders of its deeper nature. From this awareness, you can begin to relate to your dream differently. Instead of asking, when will it finally happen, you might ask, how can I embody its essence today? If your dream represents love, you can offer love in the way you speak to yourself. If it represents freedom, you can release one obligation that is rooted only in fear. If it represents peace, you can stop one argument that has been continuing inside your mind. If it represents purpose, you can give your full attention to the person or task before you. The smallest aligned action can contain the spirit of the entire dream. You do not have to wait for a future life to begin living from your true nature. You can practice it in this conversation, this breath, this choice. The outer form may still require time, but the inner reality is available now. And when you live from that inner reality, gratitude begins to emerge. Not the forced gratitude that denies pain, but a quieter appreciation for what remains present within it. You may feel grateful for the strength that carried you through a difficult season, for the person who showed you unexpected kindness, or for the simple fact that you are still capable of beginning again. Gratitude softens the belief that life has given you nothing. It helps you see that even in an incomplete story, love has left signs along the way. The more you notice these signs, the less alone you feel. You begin to sense that the source is not a distant power withholding your future. It is the living intelligence within your breath, your awareness, your capacity to forgive, and your desire to return to peace. You are not trying to reach the source through your dream. Your dream is unfolding within the source. And perhaps the most beautiful realization is that you do not need to become worthy of guidance. You do not need to perform perfectly, heal completely, or eliminate every fearful thought. You only need to become willing to listen. The guidance may arrive as a quiet no where you once forced a yes. It may appear as the courage to release what no longer belongs. It may be a gentle impulse to call someone, rest, create, apologize, or begin again. It may not feel dramatic. Truth often speaks softly because it does not need to compete. As you learn to trust that voice, your life begins to feel less like a battle against uncertainty. You still encounter change, loss, and unanswered questions, but you no longer face them entirely from the frightened mind. You meet them from a deeper place. And from that place, the dream is no longer something you chase to escape yourself. It becomes a natural expression of the love, peace, and wholeness you are remembering within. And when you begin to remember this, something gentle changes in the way you move through life. You may still have dreams. You may still imagine a future filled with love, healing, purpose, and freedom. But you no longer ask those dreams to rescue you from the present moment. You begin to understand that the life you desire is not separate from the consciousness you bring into today. A peaceful future is created through peaceful choices now. A loving life begins in the way you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. Freedom begins when you stop allowing fear to make every decision. Purpose becomes visible when you bring sincerity and presence to the life already in front of you. This does not mean you must always feel calm. There will be days when old thoughts return. You may compare yourself again. You may worry that time is passing or wonder whether you have misunderstood your path. In those moments, you do not need to criticize yourself for losing your way. You can simply return. You can return to the breath moving quietly through your body. You can return to the awareness that notices the thought without becoming trapped inside it. You can return to the loving presence that has remained with you through every season. Perhaps each morning, before the noise of the world enters your mind, you can sit in stillness for a few moments. You do not need to solve your life. You do not need to visualize every detail of your future. You can simply become available to peace. You might place your attention on your breathing and ask, what quality is my soul inviting me to express today? The answer may be patience. It may be courage, honesty, forgiveness, or rest. Whatever arises, allow it to guide the way you meet the day. This is how intention becomes spiritual practice. It is not a demand for a particular outcome. It is a willingness to live from a deeper place. Throughout the day, you may notice moments when the ego tries to take control. Perhaps someone does not respond as you hoped. A plan changes. You see another person living something you desire. Before following the old reaction, you can pause. In that pause, ask yourself, am I seeing this through love or through fear? You do not need to force a perfect answer. The question itself creates awareness. It reminds you that you have a choice about the meaning you give to the moment. Gratitude can also become a doorway back to the present. At the end of the day, you may quietly remember 3 simple things that brought you closer to peace. Perhaps it was a warm cup held between your hands, a kind word, a moment of silence, or the strength to set a necessary boundary. Gratitude does not ask you to deny what is difficult. It helps you recognize that difficulty is not the whole story. And when resentment returns, as it sometimes will, you can practice forgiveness gently. You do not have to force your heart to release everything at once. You can begin by saying, I am willing to stop carrying this in the same way. Willingness is enough to open the door. There may also be moments when your dream feels especially far away. Instead of asking why it has not arrived, you might ask, how can I live one small part of its truth today? If you dream of love, offer kindness. If you dream of peace, create a few minutes of silence. If you dream of freedom, tell one honest truth. If you dream of healing, stop speaking to yourself as though you are broken. Small choices made from alignment are never insignificant. A river reaches the ocean through countless movements that seem ordinary on their own. You may not always know where your path is leading, but perhaps you do not need to know. The tree does not study the entire forest before reaching toward the light. It responds to what is present. It grows where it can. It trusts the intelligence within its own life. The same intelligence may be moving within you. Your dream may unfold in the form you imagined. It may arrive through a path you never expected, or it may transform into something quieter and more meaningful than your original desire. Whatever happens, you do not have to lose yourself in the waiting. You can remain close to love. You can release what no longer serves your spirit. You can walk with intention while leaving room for mystery. Perhaps your dreams become reality not only when circumstances change, but when you recognize the reality already awakening within you. The peace you were seeking begins to shape your choices. The love you wanted to receive begins to move through your presence. The freedom you imagined appears each time you release the need to control. Then the dream is no longer somewhere in the distance. Its essence is already alive in you. And perhaps this is what you were always meant to remember. You are not becoming someone worthy of a beautiful life. You are gently removing the fear that made you forget the beauty of who you already are. Take one quiet breath and allow that truth to rest within you. You do not need to chase life. You can meet it. You do not need to force the river. You can trust its movement. And you do not need to wait for a dream to prove that you are whole. Wholeness is the place from which the truest dreams begin. Share in the comments the dream your heart is learning to hold with greater peace, and subscribe for more quiet spiritual journeys that help you return to the wisdom already living within you. May you move forward with trust. May you release what fear has taught you to carry. And wherever your path leads, may you remember that the loving presence you seek has never been separate from you.